We want to welcome you to Phil Holton's wood turning shop. One of the things I discovered when I was first wood turning and looking at woods in this area is some of the prettiest woods, like this is Carigana, never gets much bigger than this, but it has beautiful color. So I kind of developed a kind of bowl I called the wing bowl. Probably won't be the first kind of bowl that you want to turn, but it makes it quite interesting. And here what I have is a block of wood. I think this is sumac. Also doesn't get very big, but it's very nice. And I'm going to move that onto the lathe over here. I'm going to do this in two cuts. I'll first do the bottom of the bowl, the outside of the bowl, and then we'll move it inside. And one of the first things I do, I use my finger here to line up the top. That looks quite good. So that we, when we turn the bowl, it lines up at both ends. It'll look pretty silly if it doesn't. Okay? Now again, this isn't probably the first kind of piece that you want to turn, but it works quite well. Nevertheless. Okay, so here we're going to come cutting across here. I can't see too well what's going on. It'll get clearer as things go along. But I'm safe behind the tool rest here, so I'm not going to hurt myself if I'm careful. I'm careful to not take too big a bite at a time here. Like you can see, my cut just slides right across. I'm not cutting a very big part of the circle. My technique is pretty much the same if I was cutting the whole circle, in that I'm riding the bevel, keep me from getting too big a bite. You see, I'm coming around here like this. Let's take a look at this when we stop it. So this bark is not going to stay on, so I'm going to pull this off. You see we're starting to get that shape. It's starting to break off just a little bit here at that end. I'll try to be a little gentler with that. I'm watching right up there where I can see pretty well how my cut is going. And as I get toward the outside, I'm going to lighten my cut up quite a bit. I need to bounce me a little bit. I'm going to move the tool rest in a little bit, but I'm getting pretty close now to the top, so I don't have too much further to go. Now I want a constant curve all the way up through. So I'm watching that curve. That's the most important thing for the shape, is that I get a curve that's very consistent. And we're getting quite close. It's a very skinny piece out there at the outside. So we're going to kind of keep trimming back. We're just about there now to the top. And when I get up here, it takes me a little while to sand this. And I'm not going to sand this while you wait, but instead I'll switch to the other side. Okay? So then right down here at the bottom, I would do just a little bit more work here to get a round shape. And actually I'm not going to measure this right now, but I would make a little dovetail here to hold my chuck onto the bottom. Right here like this. And that would be the way that I could reverse this and take it off and then turn the other side. So here's what this looks like after turning one side of it. Okay, I'm going to pull this out of the way, knock my center out, and I've gotten another piece that's halfway along. So the next thing I'll do will be to put that piece on. So this one is mounted on a chuck already. I made a little dovetail at the bottom, just as you saw on that one. And I can see that this is sliding just a little bit. So I'm going to tighten that up a little. Okay. Kind of had loosened up since just earlier today. So I think the wood shrinks quite a bit once I expose it, so it's changing dimension. It means I've got to keep checking to see that I get it tight. Okay, I want to make sure that I don't touch the tool rest there. And it's registered very, very nicely there, so that won't be a problem. So now I'm going to start. This is a little more nervous because I'm dealing with it getting pretty thin. But I'll leave the tailstock up against as long as I can. I'll leave plenty of wood down there, and I'll get my light out here so I can see a little better. It takes a good imagination. I'm almost having to imagine where that edge is so that I can cut it. But I can see the bottom, so I'm just kind of tracing out the thickness that I want. And again, I'm leaving quite a bit of thickness down here that I can see. See, this is getting kind of close to where we want it. I'm going to take a couple more cuts there to get my final cut. And I'd say our final cut is probably about 3/16 of an inch. Okay, let's take a look at that. I think that's going to be fine. So now we'll take it in a little further. So I couldn't cut it that thick all at the same time because it needs more support from the middle. Okay, now we'll finish this next stretch in. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to pull the tailstock off, and we don't have very much more cutting to do. Yeah. We're going to have to edit out a little bit. This will be pretty quick here now. Okay, now we'll start thinning it up a bit more, as we are with all our faceplate turning. Eventually we want to be able to hold it from one side, and these new 4-jaw chucks with changeable jaws make that much easier. I worked in the old days when you didn't have these chucks, and you just had all sorts of other ways that you had to do it. None of them worked nearly as well. Okay, that's pretty much our last cut down to the bottom. Better be careful not to tear that middle out. Really slow that cut down a lot. I'll have to do some more sanding on this, but I think that you'll find this is going to be quite a neat little bowl that we've turned. So thanks a lot for coming to see me make a wing bowl at Phil Holton's Wood Turning Shop.